Hi YouTube. Today I will be having a triple threat face-off between 3 different bronzers to see who wins. So the question is, who will win when Charlotte Tilbury's Airbrush bronzer takes on Gucci's bronzer and the wild card, NARS's bronzer? Let's find out. Stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. And if you are new to my channel, hi, I am the ThesPNation. Feel free, since you are already here, to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Definitely hit that like button as well. Share my videos. Also, most importantly, turn on your notification bells just so that you're always aware of when I have videos coming out. As many of you know, I am an OG YouTuber. I am one of the first people to ever do luxury beauty reviews. And overall, you know, now that I've been away for a while and now that I've come back full force, the luxury beauty community actually is relatively small. There's not a lot of us. So I definitely want to, make sure that you're aware that this channel exists, and you will find things on this channel that you will not find anywhere else. I have a lot of experience in the beauty community, in the beauty industry, so hope you enjoy it. So definitely, like I said, make sure that notification bell's on because you're not gonna know I'm here, child. So if you've seen my recent videos, you'll be fully aware, and I will leave links in the description box down below in case you have not seen those videos or if you just want a refresher on them. I have been on the hunt to replace my Guerlain Terracotta bronzer in shade 5 that I absolutely love and adore and I've used for a number of years. So I have reviewed and used, of course, the Airbrush bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury. I've also been using and recently reviewed the Gucci bronzer, and I also, throughout that period, I did also acquire a NARS bronzer as well. So I'm going to show you all of these bronzers. I'm going to show them on my face. I'm going to show you shades 3 and 4 from Charlotte Tilbury, shades 4 and 5 from Gucci, and the shade that I purchased from NARS as well, which I believe is Punta Cana. So I want you guys to take a look at it, and at the end of the video, of course, I'm going to give you my final thoughts about these particular bronzers and let you know personally from me, for my skin, which bronzer wins. So let's get started. Oh Lord, this video is gonna be long to edit. It's just water. And just so that you guys are fully aware, my face is completely done in that I have on foundation, I have on setting powder, have all that going, concealer. So I'm going to go straight into the bronzer. And so for starters, the first contestant is going to be the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush bronzer. This is in shade 3, also known as Tan. And here's how this shade looks in the pan. And again, this is a bronzer that you do have to build up. So I'm going to start with a little bit and work my way up. And again, this shade is very close to my skin tone. It's just slightly deeper in tone, which is what I personally like in a bronzer. Some people like dramatic, I don't. So you can see, it's just a very natural effect. Okay guys, so this is the Airbrush bronzer in shade 3, completely applied to my face. I'll just turn my head just so that you can see that. Now I'm going to go in with the Airbrush bronzer in shade 4, also known as Deep. And here's how shade 4 looks in the pan. It's significantly deeper than shade 3. And though this shade is much deeper than I would normally like, I'm going to go ahead and apply this just so that you can see it. And again, I always apply more on camera than I would in person just because I want to be absolutely certain that you can see this on camera. And here's the Airbrush bronzer in shade 4, also known as Deep. Now we're going to move on to the third contestant, which is the NARS bronzing powder. This is in the shade Punta Cana, and here's how that shade looks in the pan. Also note that this bronzer actually is more of a radiant bronzer, or luminous rather. Not really that intense, not overly luminous, it's very soft. And here's the final results of the NARS bronzing powder in Punta Cana. Moving on, we have now arrived to contestant number 4, which is the Gucci bronzer in shade 4. And here's shade 4 in the pan. And similar to the NARS bronzer, this too is also a luminous bronzer. And I can see this in person, but you should be able to see the luminosity it gives. It's a very soft, luminous effect. And this shade is more of a whisper on my skin, which I do like. So here's the Gucci bronzer in shade 4. And last but certainly not least is contestant number 5, which is the Gucci bronzer as well, but in shade 5. Here's how that looks in the pan. Go ahead and swipe that on. You should be able to see that. And just notice how it makes that area luminous. You should be able to see that hopefully. So here's the Gucci bronzer in shade 5. Okay guys, so let's talk about it. I'm going to go ahead and put up swatches of each of these shades, all 5 of them, just so that you can get a better look at them. So in terms of how they appear in person and how they apply on the skin, the deepest shade out of all of these particular bronzers is definitely hands down shade 4 Deep in the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush bronzer. It's definitely a deep, cool undertone. It's definitely deeper in tone when compared to the Gucci bronzer in shade 5. It's very obvious, very apparent. And as it relates to the other bronzers that are more so closer to my actual skin tone, just a tinge deeper or actually my skin tone, the NARS bronzer in Punta Cana, it is a radiant bronzer. It is described as a deep brown with gold shimmer. And I would say that this particular shade actually, out of all 3 of those, out of the Gucci in shade 4, Airbrush in shade 3, and out of Punta Cana actually is more so my skin tone. It's very close to my skin tone, if not my skin tone. So though it shows up because it is a shimmer, it really doesn't read that well on my face as far as, you know, showing that I'm wearing a bronzer per se. It almost looks like I have some type of brown highlighter on my skin. Though it looks pretty, it doesn't really give me that bronze type of effect because it's too close to my skin tone. However, the Gucci bronzer in shade 4, this one is also very close to my skin tone, but it just gives this beautiful, just gorgeous finish to the skin. However, I would say that shade 3 in the Airbrush bronzer, that is hands down deeper than the other 2 of these, the NARS and the Gucci in shade 4. As it relates to all 5 of these particular bronzer shades, shade 3 and shade 4 from Charlotte Tilbury are actually deeper in tone. And with that said, I really want to cover the price point and the actual amount of product you're receiving. So with the NARS bronzer, this particular bronzing powder, it comes in 4 different shades. There is a matte formula as well, and they have different shades. But as far as this one in particular, this one comes in 4 different options, retails for $38, and you're only getting 8 grams of product. So this is considerably expensive when you compare this to the other formulas. On the flip side, you have the Gucci bronzer, which out of all 3 of these particular bronzers, is indeed the most expensive. This is $62 a piece, and you actually get 12 grams of product. So you're still getting more product than the NARS bronzer. But again, when it comes to Gucci, you're paying for the packaging. The packaging is immaculate. It's amazing. Also refillable, and you also get a brush in here as well that I'll never use. I think in my previous video when I reviewed the Gucci bronzer, I actually said that you get a powder puff. I don't know what I was thinking about, but yeah. So you do get a mini brush in here in addition to, you know, of course, a mirror. You get amazing packaging, and it's refillable. So I think this is totally worth it. And also I wanted to note that the Gucci bronzer does come in 5 shades. And last but not least is the Airbrush bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury. This one is the largest in terms of the actual amount of product you receive because this comes with 16 grams of product, comes in 4 different shades, and it retails for $55. And now the moment you've been waiting for.
I'm so excited I could just spit.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys which particular bronzer and which particular shade is amazing for me and which overall wins when it comes to being the best bronzer out of all 3 of these. Drum roll please. In 5th place is the NARS bronzing powder in Punta Cana. I think this is a nice looking bronzer. However, this particular shade Punta Cana, this is too close to my skin tone. It does say that it has gold shimmer, and I do see it on my skin. However, again, it's so close to my skin tone that I can't actually wear this. So this one for me is definitely a no-go, but you may want to check it out because it is a pretty finish. It's just this literally is my skin tone, so can't wear this. All right, and that means we're down to 4. So in 4th place, we have the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in shade 4, also known as Deep. This one gets 4th place mainly because of the actual tone. Out of all of these, as I mentioned, this one is just too deep for my skin tone. It does actually work in person if I were to apply a little bit because of course for camera and being on video, I'm applying more than, you know, I naturally would in person. However, this is just something that's too deep for me. However, if you are deeper in complexion, if you like a bit more intensity, you would like this because again, when you're looking at shade 4 and you're looking looking at shade 5 from from Gucci and from Charlotte Tilbury. This one is definitely the deepest out of all three of these, so it may be something you want. This is a matte bronzer, so it's something that's great to have and to use just because it's just a more natural look on the skin. But again, this is really just about the tone that it's giving me. These were like really hard to narrow down. In third place, we have the Gucci bronzer in shade 5.
Crystal, where are you going? This is not the time to show temperament. Get back here and stay with the other finalists. Oh, well, you've got to expect losses.
Though I absolutely love and adore this shade, I think this is a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. It's just, again, just a tinge too dark for my complexion, and it's not what I'm actually looking for personally. Though I really do love this bronzer. I think it's a, you know, gorgeous shade, gorgeous finish, because it gives you that like soft, like a almost like a soft matte, like a soft, radiant, luminous effect on the skin that I absolutely adore. I think this looks absolutely beautiful on the skin. However, for me, because I like something that's as close to natural as possible when it comes to foundation and when it comes to bronzer as well, this one's just a tinge too deep. Now we are down to 2. In the event that the first place winner is broken, lost, stolen, thrown away accidentally on a drunken night, what have you, the runner-up will be used in its place. And with that said, the runner-up in second place is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in shade 3.
But she said, Crystal, darling, don't go. Because you're not going to get it. And that's why all the true beauties didn't come.
This bronzer is as close to my Guerlain bronzer as I think I can really get in terms of the tone, the undertone. I mean, they're literally practically like fraternal twins. They are very, very close. So this gives me everything that I need. It's matte. It's beautiful. I absolutely love this bronzer. I think this is something where, you know, on days when I want to use just more of a matte bronzer and I don't want necessarily to have a luminous look to the skin, even though the Gucci is not, you know, overly luminous. If I want something like that, I would definitely go with this because, again, this is deeper than my skin tone, just a hair, and it's just right. This is like the perfect matte bronzer. So if we were talking about matte bronzers, this is the perfect matte bronzer for my complexion and my undertone. It's absolutely perfect. I think this bronzer is, they just knocked this out of the park. So this is definitely a winner, even though it got second place. So of course the first place is the Gucci bronzer in shade 4.
Look at Harlow's outfit. That is pretty. Don't bother her. Don't bother her. It's not Harlow's fault. It's not her fault.
I know it's not her fault.
Harlow has nothing. She can't help it because you're beautiful and you're young. You deserve to have the best in life, but you didn't deserve. Miss C, I don't say she's not beautiful, but she wasn't looking beautiful tonight. She doesn't equal me. Look at her makeup. It's terrible.
This bronzer is absolutely perfect. Just like the Airbrush bronzer, it is perfect in every way for me. It's just slightly dark enough to show up on my skin. Undertone's nice. I love this luminous effect that it gives to the skin. It's just a soft luminosity. I think this is absolutely beautiful, and I think it's the best bronzer I have ever seen. And if I would compare it to the Guerlain bronzer, the Guerlain bronzer did have just a tinge of a luminosity in it. It had a tinge of that in there. So this one in particular, though I would say the Airbrush bronzer is closer in tone and as far as matching the Guerlain bronzer that I used and I loved for many years, this one is everything and more. If the Guerlain bronzer had a child and that child was a prodigy, this would be its child. This bronzer is the best bronzer I have ever used. Even though I have been a bronzer snob and used Guerlain for primarily a long period of time, I did try out other bronzers and I always came back to Guerlain. This one, now that this is out and I can't use the Guerlain bronzer anymore, this is #1, hands down, the best bronzer that I have purchased recently and that I own in my entire collection. I'm sure there are other great bronzers out there, but I don't have them. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the best bronzer that I can buy right now, and especially a luxury bronzer. So I hope this video was very helpful for you guys. Definitely let me know if you've tried any of these 3 particular bronzers, What do you think about them? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I can't tell you to buy the Gucci bronzer because you may be someone who's oily and you may not want any type of shine at all on your face. But again, this is not, you know, some intense glowy shine on the skin. But even with that said, someone who's very oily, they don't really like that. And so you may not like this particular bronzer. So again, I would highly recommend to go with the Airbrush bronzer just because it's a gorgeous, matte, perfect bronzer. Do I think that the Charlotte Tilbury should come out in more shades? Of course. They should definitely make more shades of this particular bronzer. However, it does cover a wide range, and so that's great. But if you're very deep, shade 4 is not really going to do anything on your skin. Even though it is deeper than, you know, all of these in particular, it's not going to be for every skin tone, of course. So they could go back to the drawing board and just expand the range. I think that would be great just to make it more inclusive. But overall, that's a great bronzer. So if you're someone who's matte and, you know, you want everything to be matte on your face, you may want to go with that. And again, you know, you could be someone who's just normal like me and you like to just alternate. So for me, I would alternate between the Gucci and the Charlotte Tilbury in their respective shades just because I think they're both beautiful. I almost wanted to call this a tie because they're amazing. But again, Gucci did edge out in that and take the win. So definitely let me know your thoughts. Definitely rate, comment, subscribe. Again, I hope you appreciated this video and I'll be back with a whole lot more. Bye guys.